Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Executive Table Talks here. Special edition is Artist Table Talk today. Today, we're going to be talking about what makes an artist brand strong. And that's because we have one of our amazing executive experts, Kathryn Marshburn, here today. She does a lot of work in artist partnerships and brand deals. And she has gotten us a very special guest. I have to say, I feel like my cool factor legitimately has just gone up today in my LinkedIn feed because we have Tay Grin here. Now, I want to bring up Tay's. You've got to see his Instagram. First of all, he is, if you're ready for this, the largest, if I'm saying this correctly, rap artist in South Africa, Malawi, South Africa. So talk about a homegrown base. We're going to talk a lot about him. He's here visiting in the States right now, visiting in Hollywood, and just performed at Whiskey A Go-Go, one of the hottest and most respected places for artists in Hollywood, in LA. And so we're going to talk about that experience, but more importantly, just how did he do this? How did he build an Instagram platform in Malawi, South Africa, with literally hundreds and thousands of people following him, loving his work? So with that in mind, I want to bring Tay and Kathryn up to the stage. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Everybody.
So good to have you here. Okay, so Tay, first of all, we just need to hear the story. How did you get into being a rapper, and how did you rise up? How did you make this all happen for yourself?
Well, I've been in the music industry for over 18 years now. And, the rise has been difficult. It has been, as anyone in the industry would tell you. But interestingly enough, my journey, I think, has crafted what I am currently doing now. I've gone 360. I've learned. I've become the biggest artist back home. And now that the idea is to move and share the culture to the rest of the world. Over the years, I created a sound called Meow Music, and that came just from me wanting to share my culture, but also to promote and preserve it. I believe that culture is a fingerprint. It's your identity in this world, and it's very important for each and every one of us, to be very proud of who we are. So my music fuses with so many different cultures, and I think that's what has catapulted me to where I am. And landed me here on this great platform with you today. You said you're cool, you're feeling cool, but I'm also happy to be here today and share part of my story.
I love it. I love it. I love that you talked about it being like a fingerprint and the idea of preserving and promoting your culture, which I think is hugely important. And music is one of the most powerful ways to do that. Kathryn, you've worked with a lot of new artists. So, he's being humble. Let's just face it, right? He's being very humble, very sweet. Can you talk a little bit more about the magnitude of this? Because it's a pretty big deal.
It is. He has built a brand that it's like brand 101 class that he started from day one. So not only has he established himself in his hometown, he is the largest #1 hip hop artist in Malawi, Africa. And that came from a lot of work and a lot of time spent. He's created an amazing cadence with the way that he raps. He also has his own language, some of his own words that are really unique to him. He also has a really special drum beat that's incorporated into his music that identifies him. And he's also coined himself the king because he is the king, and it shows in all of his work. So that brand took a lot of time for him to put together. And I have to say, it's so strong. When I asked Tay earlier, I said, hey, how many Facebook followers are there in Malawi? And I think he said 400,000. I could be wrong. And I said, how many of those do you have? He says, 500,000. I mean, he has captured the entire village in that area. So I have such high hopes because his brand is so strong. And after watching my performance of him at the Whiskey A Go-Go here on Sunset Boulevard, which has hosted acts like Aerosmith, the Go-Go's, iconic acts, it's no surprise to me that a lot of the bands that were on the lineup, which were rock, soul, pop, all of their fans stayed for his set, and there was standing room only. And what was interesting to me is that they were mouthing the words of the song, and it was in a foreign language. So I feel like that is going to resonate heavily here in the US, and he's going to be able to really make a presence here for the first time and really break through. So
I love it. I totally agree with you. I mean, standing remotely and everybody there singing your song and they don't speak your language. That might be a subtle hint that things are going well. So let's get into that. Whiskey A Go-Go. You're at the Whiskey, like iconic place. What did that feel like to you?
Personally, I still haven't gotten over it. just how the magnitude, people that have come through those corridors. If you're talking about hip hop, people like Eminem, Aerosmith, people who, legends, big iconic artists that I've also looked up to, and to be on that stage that has launched so many of, magnificent careers. For me, not only is it historic for myself, but also for my people. The first Malawian act to do so, but also not only do that, but also bring a sound that is authentically Malawian. Kathryn alluded to it earlier about the Nyao drum. It's historic in the sense that we brought the Nyao drum to the iconic venue, and had such a beautiful night. Like I said, the cultures blended. People, I shared what some of these songs meant, some of the words, so that people could sing along, and they did so with so much energy and love. So for me, I honestly feel welcome. And I am totally looking forward to growing my fan base in the US, coming back and forth, touring, working with the team that is already in place here, and helping me, expand the brand. So I am absolutely looking forward. It's a task we're geared for, and I'm happy to be here, honestly.
Okay, so you've been at this for 18 years.
Mm.
Clearly, you're committed to it. Can you remember the moment, or was it a series of moments where you realized this is what I want to do and I'm just going to put my all into it?
So I shared a story with Kathryn one time. I said, look, my music story is very interesting because when I started, I dropped music class because the grades weren't looking so good on the report card, and in order to change that, instead I took up art. And as the years passed, I met these friends of mine, Tetsu and Fiona, who were deeply into music. They would write and come over at the house, freestyle. One holiday, we met a guy by the name of Crafty. This young man was just talented at making beats. So he joined our crew. He would make the beats. The guys would put music, and I started, I was drawn more into, because at that time I used to do poetry. Now I started getting drawn into this music making process. Fast forward, this was where my name Tay Grin came from. So these people here took me from a guy who dropped out of music class and wasn't really looking at that as an option, and brought me back, and to realize the talent that was within me. And I think that that also helped me more, just to realize how important family is, how important it is to be rooted to where you're from, and I think that's the birth. And when people ask me what does Tay Green mean, for me, it's really this particular story that I keep telling of how I was drawn away, away from music initially, but then came back to it, and then now using that particular medium, to talk to people around the world about how important culture is, and how we must use, our positivity to develop the world, and and make a positive change.
I love it. I do. I love that you are making a positive change. And folks, I just want to remind you, we're here with the artist Tay Grin. He is the number one rap artist in Malawi, South Africa. He is here in the US right now. We're so lucky to have him here. This is his Instagram. Please make sure I popped it in the chat. Please make sure you go over and follow him. And hopefully, we're trying to convince him to get on TikTok as well, so that we can see a lot more of him and make him go global. Kathryn, I'm going to ask you a quick question. The first time you saw Tay and his work, like what really drew you to it?
Well, he's the most kind, loving individual in his soul. And I think that's what drew me in first. And then to hear the stories that he's told me about Malawi, Africa, I've never been there. And I've been asked to go several times, and I haven't been to his country. And I really have wanted to go. It has some technical issues why I haven't gone. But he came here and brought it, I feel like for me, to the whiskey, so I could really I'm so grateful to be able to experience it. And I guess what really set him apart for me is the integrity that he has in making sure that we feel his culture, the history of his country, the hard things he's gone through. I mean, Tay can elaborate on, sometimes there's wartime, and to be able to be a music artist in that kind of an environment is unbelievable. They have limited access to music on handheld devices. So he, over the years, has just paced this thing and paced it and worked so hard. There's a story that his drummers told me. Both of his drummers traveled for the first time on an airplane and the first time to America with their drums. They brought drums that are from their country, that were made there. They hand painted them, and it's animal skins as the top of the drum. And something really interesting happened at the whiskey. I was tour managing the group into the event, and I sent what's called a stage plot. And Tay said, "Oh yeah, by the way, the skins need to be heated up by fire." And I said, "Oh, this is Los Angeles, and I don't think the alley behind the whiskey is gonna let me put something on fire." I said, "But let me check on that." So I ended up so I always do a rehearsal with any artist. Sometimes Tay was so gracious to rehearse, but when I haven't seen anyone, and it's particularly my name's attached to it, I'm gonna put them in a rehearsal and really share my feedback from the years of with Flow Rider's work that he's taught me. So, and that's kind of my frame of reference on rehearsals before you go out on the road, especially someplace like the whiskey. So while we were at rehearsals, I'm like, oh, I forgot the fire. I'm like, okay, so I got a hair dryer, and it worked. And the guys are backstage doing the hair dryer. And Tay, it worked pretty good too. But
It was very well, and the sound was excellent. It worked just,
but I
just
have
like
to
the firewood.
when I realized the blessing and the amazing opportunity and how grateful I was to like walk through the doors of something like that, I'm gonna get choked up, but I was like, wow, like these two men have come from his drummers, Africa, never been on a plane. They're so brave, never been to America, with their drums and their beautiful garments, which you'll see on Instagram, that are from their village. And they were smiling and so happy on stage. I mean, I just felt like it was the most beautiful moment. So when you ask me about what drew me to him, a combination of all of those things, and my hope and that I know he will be successful here in the US. I know it.
Yeah, this picture's iconic here. This picture with them and the drums in the background, and I love the fact that you have this story to tell. I mean, so you're forever going to have a hair dryer now. I'm pretty sure. Somewhere in your purse, there will always be a hair dryer around. Can we talk more about the drums, because they are very, they're tied to your culture. They're very important. Can you talk us through the significance of them and maybe how the sound is different?
Well, for me, it's been the driving force of my music. For me to be called the Nyao King, it's simply because of the sound that my music, fuses with the Nyao drum. Obviously, with other, my country has over 200 indigenous instruments, which I also do apply to most of the music to create this particular unique sound. But the drums for me, go back to a time when I was a young boy, and I went back on holiday, and this was around the time that I had just discovered my talent with my friends on regarding my music, and wanting to go further with the music. And I guess as I was exploring, I went on holiday back home at the village, and they just started playing the drums. They started playing the drums, and it was such a beautiful effect, because the moment the drums started playing, everybody just left whatever they were doing, and they were just drawn towards this. And I said to myself, if I can incorporate this, and this being my culture, into music, I can share so much, and I have this effect, and that's what the music did. So the drums are very significant for me, because it gave me an identity. It's the reason why I am celebrated by so many people, because I've become a custodian of culture uh, simply by using this particular drum. And as Kathryn said, before you play it, so when it's just there and it's cold, the skin hide, when you hit it, the sound is very hollow. It doesn't give you that very, the top end sound that you want. So what we normally do back home is you light a fire, you take the face of the drum, you face it towards the fire. You rotate the drum so that skin hardens slightly and gives you a nicer tone. And the sound that it creates, I mean, everyone at the whiskey was dancing. People came on stage to even dance to the drums. The dance moves are slightly different to what you might be used to. And that's why we're here, to share the culture, the dance, so that we'll share, and eventually learn how to dance to the Nyao drums. But that's why they're very significant to my music career.
That's amazing. I have to say, this whole episode is about having a brand be strong. And I think what I'm learning from this is that, like any good brand, it has to be rooted in authenticity, in this realism, but also a passion and a connection. And to hear you talk about, I want to be the custodian of my culture, and I want to bring these things in, and I want to make people understand that, but also in a really positive way. That takes a lot of intention. It
True.
takes a lot of commitment and focus to do that. And I can see why people are so obsessed with you, not only in your own country, but obviously here. I mean, like you said, Kathryn, you don't even need to speak the language. At that point, it comes through, right? I think that's a universal thing. And for those of you listening and thinking about, branding, especially if you're an artist, these are the things that you have to ask yourself. And it might take you 18 years
Of course.
for your brand, right, to really evolve itself through. That's why I
True.
love your story. It's not like you just hit it overnight and, it was suddenly there. This has been something that you have curated and worked really hard to build up, which I absolutely love. Tay, I want you to tell the folks out there, especially new artists or people that don't have a brand, are there one or two tips that you would provide for them?
Well, look, I mean, you already alluded to some of them. That the first thing is an identity. People. There's so many musicians out there. People, with different stories to tell. But what you normally realize with the ones with the brands that sort of resonate with people are the ones that are just genuinely telling their story. They have an identity. They know where they come from. They're sharing their story, and there's nothing more beautiful because what you end up realizing is that as humans we have similar stories. We go through similar problems. We love the same. We go through, and I think that unifies, the world. So you find that the big artists, people who understand this, that culture is very important. Don't be drawn to what might be out there. Yes, it might be nice to, look at other brands, but create your own. So have an identity. That's very important. Grow from your what makes sense to you because there's so many other people who can resonate with that. And obviously, the usual stuff, which is work hard, have the right team in place, but also really follow your passion, because I'll tell you that there are times where I almost wanted to give up. It just, it didn't seem like this thing was going anywhere. We have that roller coaster ride because that's what life brings your way. However, the passion for what I was doing and the mission was set, made it easier for me to build this brand over time because then I was consistent. I delivered the consistent body of work, a certain quality of work, and always sort of breaking boundaries. Here we are today, doing exactly the same thing. No artist in my country has ever said, "Listen, I'm going to the United States and try to sell the music, but also break into that market and grow a fan base." So this is why for me it's always exciting to be at the cutting edge of anything, moving with the times. It is important to fuse the music with the times so that it's relevant. There's a saying I always go by, which is if you preserve culture the way it is, you lose culture. Okay? But if you modify it, you preserve it. And I think that in that way, culture remains relevant. The youth resonate with it. They grow up being cultured, knowing who they are, where they come from, and then making positive impact on the world.
Oh my gosh. There was so much in that, like that just gave me chills the way you talked about that, about preserving culture and what is really required to do that. That takes major insight to know that. I loved it. Kathryn, on that same question, is there one or two things, young artists out there right now, not any age artists, I shouldn't say that, fledgling, let's go there. One or two things you would have them keep in mind so that they can hopefully get to the same level of success that Tay is?
Music has really changed. So the way that music is distributed, produced, metadata entered in and sent out to the world is so different. So as talented and as amazing as a lot of artists that I have seen come through the independent kind of cycle, and most of them, anyone who comes through TikTok or is out there online really does have a talent basis. But today, the real talent is the artist that knows how to promote their own music. That is where the talent is coming from today. That's what I'm seeing. And for example, and I've mentioned this before, we really have to look at a rollout plan for a music artist going on about 8 to 10 posts a day over 6 different platforms for about 3 months. And that's a small rollout plan for a single or for an album. There's other things that artists really need to pay attention to today is to leverage all of their platforms and to get on as many platforms as they can. We're also putting out a lot of visualizers in hip hop, which are very helpful on YouTube, which is a digital form video that plays the song in addition to a full-on music video. Those are super helpful to drive the platform into YouTube Shorts. But also, we're seeing a lot of sped up remastering. So songs that are sped up, JT, are like at a faster pace, and they're being re-released. And that also is very popular in the dance, in the EDM community, but it's also generally popular with our friends over at Spotify. They're seeing a lot of traction with songs, even albums that are remastered in a sped up version, which are really cool. And a lot of music consumers like hearing that. So I say that everyone's been extremely talented in the space from a music standpoint, exceptionally talented like Tay. But to me, the real talent right now is watching how an artist promotes their own music and how creative they can get in that space in marketing of the brand.
Love it. No, I would agree with you. I think that there's such an opportunity. In some ways, it's an equalizer, right? Because if you can get out there on these free platforms and build that up through crowdsourcing, the crowd is confirming you have the right sound, you have something to say, you're worth listening to, which I think is amazing. So I want to talk more though about your creative process. So when you are creating music, how does that work for you? How do you get inspired? Where does it come from?
I've been maybe if I say this to you, so I have been in the music industry for 18 years, and I only have 2 albums, 1 EP, and singles. So my recipe on making music is not necessarily quantity. I record all the time. That's something that I do because I feel like you need to practice and keep your craft going. But releasing music takes time for me because I feel it is very important to take time with it to resonate. Until I want to make I like to build music that will last the test of time. Because the music is reaching to so many people. Uh, uh, Someone has said to me, when I listen to music, it energizes me. It brings life. It gives me hope. So for me to put that into music, I think it takes time. So I do take time with it. Sometimes my inspiration is drawn from just a situation. My trip here has given me so many different ideas that will also bring about different music. I want to incorporate my now drums to classic American music, bring the two cultures together. But I'll also hear there's like it's a melting pot of different cultures. I want to mix it with, the different cultures that are also vibrant around here and are making different types of music. Uh, and I think, you know, that's how I look at it.
That gets me so excited because I think there are a lot of artists out there that are maybe obsessed with their sound being the sound. And the thing you're saying right now is, I want to collaborate. I want my music to be wrapped into other people's music. And I think that's what we need so much more of right now. I think that's where so much more beautiful music comes out of that collaboration.
Right.
So, would you both agree? I mean, I think you have to be open to that as an artist. You have to need to be far more open as opposed to thinking like, this is my sound, this is my music, I want to own it.
Yeah, exactly. That collaboration that definitely it creates even more magical sound. This is when you find that everyone is able to express and showcase their talent, but also bring in their elements, their culture, their history. And what you end up having is a timeless piece of work that can be celebrated. Between the two different cultures. So for me, it's very important to do a collaborative piece of work rather than someone just having something and send it to you. Just put your vocals on it. I always believe that it's important to have that conversation. What are we thinking? It's also very important sometimes in the creative process to understand the person you're collaborating with. Have that conversation. Through that conversation, I think greater ideas are drawn, and it's easier now to map out such beautiful music in terms of just how you collaborate, and each of you would definitely shine on that body of work.
I know that. I know
Oh.
that Tay has a really interesting story. This might be shifting up a little bit, but I noticed he's worked with an amazing app in a brand deal, and it aligns with his story and who he is. It's very authentic, and he explained to me that when he looks at brand deals and brand opportunities, it has to make sense for his fans and his country first, and that it aligns with his brand. So, Tay, would you mind sharing that story about the app? Because I think it's so interesting.
Oh, definitely. This is an app called Yellow Card, and they basically have created a platform where people of Malawi which is something that obviously before they came in and presented, it was unheard of. And for me, when I was sharing the story with Kathryn, I simply said, I've always been the type of person who goes into something if it benefits the masses, right? So again, I went into music because I wanted the young people to grow culture and understand that it's very important to have an identity, because then you're giving them the right knowledge, you're giving them the right tools, to go and survive in the world. Similar with this crypto is what's coming up, what's happening next. The world is shifting. So for my people, it's very important for them to understand what is happening around the world. And on this platform, there's so many advantages. You can trade, learn how to trade, make, earn a living off of these platforms if you learn and understand the trade. But also just opening their minds to what is happening and how the world is, working, so they're not left behind. And this is what I believe is very important for any nation, as you're preserving the culture, but also to learn. This is the modifying part, to learn what is coming new, what is how people are working, how Kathryn explained, in terms of branding and how now artists are working on these different platforms. Because if you don't understand how the world is transforming and changing around you, you might be a good artist, as you said, or you might have good business ideas, but it will not translate to the people that it needs to, because you're not utilizing the opportunities around you.
Okay, so I love that so much, because I think people forget that when you're a brand, when we talk about any branding, but you're an artist brand, you're a channel, right?
Yeah.
That's like a news channel. And for you to take that so seriously and think about the opportunity you have for people, for all of them to benefit through what you're channeling
Mhm.
in this feed is enormous. And I would argue that you're playing the long game. And that is the right game to play, which is I'm going to choose, and I might have fewer brand deals and it might not be as much now,
Right.
but by keeping the integrity of the brand and the associations down the line, when you're going to have millions, because you're going to have millions of followers, my friend, tens of millions of followers, that's when the reward will come back and it'll be on your terms. It's
But it will be
amazing.
also that, and they'll realize that this brand that we're following, is genuine. They're authentic. They are really, if they do say this, because you're growing an honest brand, and you're looking out for them. It's not only about what you're gonna get, but how is this thing that I'm going to share with my people on this platform going to benefit them? So you're looking out for each other as you grow. You trust each other. You make good music, but there are also other things that you run through this platform that will benefit those that are following you, and everybody grows.
I love that. You really are caring for your followers, right? You're
It's
serving your followers.
it's
They're,
very
even though you're the king, you're serving them. Like if you think about that with your right? I mean, it makes total sense.
you get it, you get it.
I know, it's amazing. Okay. Now here you talked about experiences and eventually wrapping, putting those into your music. What's been the craziest, most exciting experience besides whiskey, performing at the whiskey? What little thing has happened here in America that, has kind of blown your mind or might make its way into something that you do?
Well, look, every day here when you go out, amazing things are happening. People that I'm meeting, people that I'm being introduced to. Just being in an area, I think this is the hub for entertainment. Everyone is just around the corner, and I think that just for me, what I keep saying to everybody now is I definitely need to be here. If I'm not going to come move here, I need to be here, like really often, because it's so welcoming. It's definitely a place of opportunity, and I feel so welcome and happy to be here. So I definitely want to explore more, get to know more people, learn more about the culture here, and also bring the Malawian culture over so that we can share the beautiful stuff with this music, food, and grow that as well here and be part of the community, and entertain the people in the most amazing way.
I love it. And that's the reason I love this. This is the reason I love social media and what we're doing here today. This is the power. This is the positive power of what we can do.
Yeah.
So we know that he is super humble. So Kathryn, I'm going to give you the last word in the sense that I want you to tell as we wrap up here, like, what does everybody need to know? Where should they go follow him? What's in store?
Well, first of all, go check him out on Instagram under Tay Grin, Taygrin, and also go check him out on Spotify and listen to his music, which you'll love. More importantly, he'll be coming back, and I'm sure he'll be doing more shows. And if you're in LA, please come see him. And I think you're going to see, as I mentioned before, a lot of globalization coming into the US as the technology has allowed us to really shorten the distance between the rest of the world and our country. And sharing cultures is a beautiful way for us to support each other through any troubles that we have for going throughout the world. It's to support each other. And music is definitely the healing power in that. So please support him, check him out, and wish him well. He'll respond to your messages, I promise.
That is awesome. Tay, you're going to get the last word, though. What do you want everyone to know? Like, what's the most important thing you want them to take away from this today?
Well, I mean, we shared, I think, an array of topics and beautiful messages, and I shared part of my story. I just want everybody to know that I am, I'm honored to be again on this platform sharing my story with you, and I hope that you do follow me on my pages, learn more about me, learn more about my music. Reach out, as Kathryn said. I do respond because I believe that the people that follow you matter the most. Those are the ones that are supporting you. Those are the ones that are, are drawn to the story. So when you do reach out, please do so. I'm here to work. I want to be back and forth. I want to collaborate. I want to grow the brand. So this is really a person who's welcoming and saying, listen, this is the time to do so if you're keen and interested. But once again, thank you very much. And I hope to see you guys at one of my shows live, performing wherever you are. God bless.
I love it. Folks, promise me, go over right now. Follow Tay Grin at Tay Grin on Instagram. Go to Spotify, download the music, show him the love for the time that he took here today, because this is really special. And I very much look forward to seeing you in concert, especially when you come back here and you're doing a national tour. It's going to be pretty awesome. I'll be able to say, I remember when.
It all started here.
It's great. This is great stuff. So I really wish you the best. Kathryn, thank you for finding Tay and having him join us on the show today. Folks, thank you for following. You remember, we're here every single week. So keep sending your questions, comments, feedback, and ideas for future shows. Okay, everyone? All right, take care, my friends. Until next time, remember, if you want to win, you got to work it daily. Go get them.